वेलकम टू वैल्यू टॉक्स एंड आज हम बात करेंगे एमबीए इन आईवी लीग एंड विद अस वन ऑफ आवर ओन Suhel, who is from 18GR and the prestigious PVC battalion, and Suhail is presently joining us from US. It's so great to see you, and but you have suddenly vanished.
Oh, I'm very much here, sir.
Right,
Okay.
right, right, right. Okay, great. So Sohail is joining us from US itself, and thank you, Sohail. You took out your time. You can see the response. There are already 127 officers who are with us, minus three of us, you, me, and Vipul. So that itself is shows how much of interest this topic is of to everyone who's planning a transition, and maybe for some of them for their children. And that was a reason to request you for coming on this thing. So, Suhail, before we get on to the topic proper, can you give a just a brief introduction about yourself?
So at the outset, sir, I'd like to thank yourself and Vipul, sir, for this opportunity. It's indeed a great privilege to speak to my own and do kind of feel at home while I'm away from home, while being with so many officers of my own community, which I actually relate to. And there are a few of my course mates in the chat, so yeah, a big hi to all of them. Yeah, so about myself, I was born and raised in the military. I am a second generation in the military. I went to NDA to start with. That's where the journey started. That is where the evolution started. Thereafter, it was IMA, and then I was commissioned into 3 Mechanized Infantry, First at Gorkha Rifles. My first about 10 years plus of my service over all majorly regimental service, barring one short field tenure. And then I was given an opportunity to serve with a simulated development division in Secunderabad. I spent a good 2 years there and learned a lot. And thereafter, I got back to the unit, finished my regimental service, got a specialization in the IIT domain. That so we what we call this, and outside of the army, we call that the satellite remote sensing and geospatial tech. So I served for 5 years with a specialty, and that is kind of what I took away in a major way from the army. And yeah, so I had two technical exposures while I was in the army, and towards the end of it, I was very clear that I was going to move out and try another profession cause maybe, and thereafter there was this time when I decided to take a call and try and go for a number of colleges in business schools in US, and yeah, MIT Sloan was one of them. And there was a period where I had to work quite a bit to get into MIT Sloan. But yes, again, that was while I was in the army. I had a lot of support from the system, and yeah, when I finished my military tenure, it was April 2022, and in May 2022, I was here in Cambridge, Boston, to start my new journey.
I said your achievement is no mean achievement, and let me tell you, when you see one of your own doing reaching some height, then the height appears, it seems achievable. It appears achievable, and in that way, you are a source of inspiration for many people here, and I'm sure at least some of them will reach Sloan or any such university, or they would dare to attempt and get to some different prestigious universities. I'm sure of that. ये जो background है पीछे, is it MIT?
This is the Sloan School of Management, sir. This is the part of MIT where the management school.
Right. So
Yes,
ठीक
sir.
है.
Although it's morning here, I took the evening background to merge with what's happening in India right now. The time.
Very, very nice. So Suhil, when did you uh, when did you leave? Which year did you hang your uniform?
So my last day of service was 15th of April 2022. So,
2022. And by that time, you had completed how much of service?
20 years and about 5 months.
Great. So that itself is quite courageous that after 20 years, 5 months, so that means you must be in your early 40s, if I'm not wrong. So taking such a big leap and a very, very decision, because once you're in your early 40s, you are, many of us think of, doing whether to do MBA or not. So what thought process had gone in your mind, and when did you start preparing for it?
The thought process of mine was always to do something different. And these days, the armed forces do tell you in time as to where you're going, how well you're oriented towards a progressive career or otherwise. So that I was told in time, and thereafter I was of a mind that I would want to try out something different in career and have another professional journey. To that effect, I decided sometime in 2019 also I was very clear that I was going to go, but I was preparing for a life outside of the military in India itself. My decision to go to a business school happened only in the month of May 2021.
May 2021, and you left in April 2022.
And that timeline, sir, is extremely tight. If someone wants to take a decision and move out, I would recommend that people give it time, give it thought, and there is a preparation that is required. I was fortunate in certain terms that everything fell into place for me, but there's a fair bit of preparation that is required. It's ideal that if someone wants to take such a decision, they should give themselves a year, 2 year and a half of preparation and a transition period while in the military and outside of the military if required.
So, gentlemen, please note, this is in line with what I have been advocating, that once you are, and it's not only for MIT, Sloan, or for that matter, but if you know that you have to come out, then you should start preparing at least 1 to 1.5 years, ideally 2 years, and depending upon what you want to achieve. So you should plan well in advance. And in Sohail's case also, he decided in May 21, and April 22 you came out, and he is saying that the timeline was tight because he was attempting something different. So you can well understand that planning well in advance is very, very important. So, Suhel, when did you decide that you have to go out? I mean, when did you decide that you have to take this path of MIT, or for that matter, any other, US?
So you go out of the army. I had decided well in time. My postmates over here would vouch for me. We formed a group. We still have a very robust and very informative group. Just me and my postmates. So we started this in 2019, exchanging ideas, trying to understand what the external world is going to be like. So before I decided to come to the US, I did my Six Sigma, I did do my scaled agile. So I was kind of preparing for the outside world, and there was a connect that happened in the month of May of 2021. Somebody suggested that it might work out for you, and in my case specifically, why I felt it was easy for me is that I have a bit of a support system over here in US. My immediate family is here in terms of my sister and her relatives and some other cousins. So I do have a bit of a support system here. So I was encouraged by them also. Apart from them, there is a large community of military veterans in US, very closely connected, and one can get connected to them if one desires to take. So that is what I tried. I spoke to a few people. I decided, and I had some encouragement based on what the support system also that I had. Now, had that not been the case for me, probably I would have done some more deliberation about moving out of the country. Because when we are changing careers, we are changing industry, role, geography, everything. I would like to deliberate on this much more during the later part of the talk. But deciding to change industry, role, and geography, it really has to be a very deliberate thought, and it has to work out. It hasn't yet worked out for me. It only has worked out in terms of me reaching MIT Sloan. One aspires of a career hereafter. So it's not just me who's here at MIT Sloan. There are other military officers who come in with me from India. So it all has to yet pan out for us.
So great. But the lesson here is, there are very important lessons which come out is basically that you took a decision which was not a wild random decision. You took this decision. It was, yes, it was a very courageous decision, but you did all your deliberations, and that is important for everyone else also. Whether you are planning to do MBA from outside or from India, whether you are planning to take a plunge, you have to be very sure of your own support system and what the how things can go wrong, or if things don't go the way you have planned. So how will you support yourself? Who's there standing with you? So that way he had already thought of it. He had a support system, and he took the a very considered decision. We'll talk about this decision, more of this. So when you thought of, when you decided that you will go the US way, uh, when was that exactly? I mean, that was not in 2021 May. So you must have taken some time to decide that, okay, US is the one where I want to go. So when was that?
I had been in talks with my relatives that this is a geography where one can come and have a career, but the path to it was not really discussed. It was something which was a possibility, but it was only in 21 that I had a series of discussions. I think the entire month was dedicated to just this. Apart from if I was in office, I was working, or even I was not in office, I was discussing with people, getting in touch with a lot of officers when I was here in the US. So yes, my decision proper with a lot of discussions with my support system over here happened in the month of May 21. Whether or not US could have been a possibility for me, this was going on for like previous 3 years. And I had visited US earlier. I knew what it was to be like over here. There are some people who have never visited Western countries. So, it kind of is difficult to understand how things work. But then in my case, there were very few surprises, or to that extent, not really too many surprises.
So again, lesson learned is that, first of all, he has been considering this option for quite some time. It was not a random option which he decided once he decided to take PMR. So that means he had been considering. Second thing, it was a new territory, so he had visited the territory, he had recceed his ground, and only after that he was doing. And thirdly, he you have been networking, you have been talking to people who have already been in the similar situations, or I mean, people who were in this type, in this geography, and how things can work out, and what is the scope, and also that way networking, taking doing due deliberations, and visiting the geography to understand how the life is going to be. All three things were done by him. So that is what is called due diligence, and I think that is a very logical way to go about it.
One point,
Yeah.
sir. The networking aspect I have not highlighted while I have spoken, but to be active on LinkedIn, reaching out to people and understanding things from their perspective. And I was able to reach out only because of LinkedIn. I am here today because I have said this in one of my classes too. I am here today because of LinkedIn, because one thing led to another, and I was just trying to network. I knew that I had to move on, and I was just trying to network. So yes, it was not just my family that was who was advising me. It was also that the network that I had been able to cultivate. I got in touch with those people. They advised me, and thereafter the decision came.
Exactly. That is what the point was. That I mean, and we have been in our earlier talks also have been, emphasizing on this particular point that networking is very, very important. In fact, we have done a video on that. Network is your network, and how important networking is. And soon we are going to have a class on master class on LinkedIn also. So, gentlemen, LinkedIn is very important. Networking wherever possible, whether in physical form or joining forums or whatever, without expectations. Don't have any expectations. With network with people, try and learn, try to connect. It's very, very important. So that was a good point which you brought out, Suhail. So, once you had visited the geography, you had already networked with people, you had made up your mind. So, and then there was this mammoth task of the exam to get entry into the thing. And as I understand, because I have also been, mentoring few of the people who have gone to US, Michigan University and LA and all. So tell me, because the statement of purpose and all, everything takes time, and your marks may not alone decide your entry. So once this task was right in front of you, how did you go about
So for military officers, veterans, or for anyone else for that matter, uh, it is the admission process, I would say, is in two parts. There's
it?
first the exam, the GMAT exam or the executive assessment exam. One of these exams, one has to have the score. And apart from that is the application preparation process. Now, one must understand, you just don't apply to one college. When you're applying for business schools, you apply for multiple business schools. That is how it works. I also applied for three, got selected in a couple, did not get selected in one. So to that extent, the methodology is applied to multiple business schools. So when you're applying for multiple business schools, there are multiple applications one is working for each. The requirement of the application differs. The way the recommendations have to be formulated, the way if there are videos required, if there are SOPs required, or there are goal definitions required, essays required. All of these would differ for different schools, and preparation of them simultaneously itself is a fairly big ask. So to that extent, ideal is one finishes the exam first, GMAT oblique the executive assessment, and then goes on for the application preparation proper in the next phase. So please distribute. Ideal thing to do is to distribute this particular effort in two parts. In my case, because I took a decision a little late, I had to do both the things simultaneously. It's not impossible, but it's really uphill. I really had to work very hard, and I felt that this could have been made easier for me had I adopted a different approach, or probably had I taken a decision in an earlier time frame. And that is exactly why I say that 1.5 years of effort and deliberation is required after the decision point. And unlike in my case, wherein the decision point was hardly a year prior to reaching here. So yeah, two parts: the exam and the application preparation process. Application, one must research the various types of business schools, what they are offering, what the degrees are, how it's the individual, how it aligns with his or her career journey so far, and what best he or she can get out of it.
So 150 of us are here. Anybody who's not part of the Value Talk family, please do join the family. We're trying to help you and sincerely trying to help you. Please join the WhatsApp groups. Please join the Telegram channel. The links are there in the chat box. So do join. Now, Suhel, I want to ask you, when you were considering your MBA from US, did you consider that which are the veteran friendly, armed forces friendly colleges or something? Did you do this kind of some kind of diligence, class composition? Because in MBA sometimes the entire class is very young. They may be in their 20s, and you may be the only one who's there. So any such consideration did you do?
This does matter, sir. This consideration has to be carried out. It leads to the program that you're going to enter into. So if there are officers over here who are short service and want to come into a business program here, the program that I am doing, which is for mid-career professionals, that may not be the most ideal one. Somebody who's had 5 years of professional service, for them, probably the 2-year MBA will suit better. Or there are so many different programs in different schools, right? From Duke, Cornell, and NYU. So these are universities that are usually not talked of, but are one of the top-notch universities. Apart from Stanford, MIT, and Kellogg's that one always continues to speak of. Veteran friendly, yes, they are veteran friendly. In case of Indian veterans, depends who's applying and what time frame. So we do have Indian veterans from various universities, business schools over here. But my consideration was to try and get to the best college, and there was no Indian veteran who had been in MIT Sloan prior to me after 20 years of military engagement. Prior
Gentlemen,
to
raise your hands for saluting Suhail for,
so it's three of us.
don't worry, all three
Three of
of
us.
you, for all three of you, we raise our hands. Okay, great achievement. And it's inspirational. Yeah, why not? It's an achievement. You are the first of the lot. And I'm sure many will follow henceforth. So, Suhail, what about the money part of it? How did you? It's a sore point for most of us because it costs a bit. The cost is pretty steep. And so while some of us may manage from our own resources, most will go for a loan. So what was in your case, and how does the equation fit in?
So largely for most Indians, it turns out to be a loan because what one is investing is close to, or even with the living expenses included, more than 200K. That is $200,000. So that is a fairly large amount, and to commit that amount in a year's period, when you're not really aware as to what awaits you after that 1 year, is not really possible. So loan is the right way to go forward, and whether you want to take that burden onto yourself, whether a person wants to do that or not, that is a decision that may take various considerations, not just courage. One is having the military thought in one's mind that it's possible, I can do it no matter what. Very good. That is where you start with your thought process. But then beyond that, I think it also comes down to liabilities, etc. What is one expected to support in terms of right from elders to kids? How is one poised? That makes a difference. And in my case, my liability actually was only myself, so I was able to go for it.
Very fine. But is this considered a STEM course? How much is the this thing after this work visa, work
Yes.
permit after this?
So that's a very good question, sir. One must see through programs, whatever business programs one may be considering. One must see through these programs and understand whether they are STEM courses or not. The MIT Sloan 1 year Sloan Fellows MBA is a STEM course.
Oh,
So
lovely.
what is a STEM course? What you're allowed to do is a 3 year operational training. That is the work visa one has within the US after 3 years, for 3 years rather. But then that has to be within STEM roles. It cannot be outside of STEM roles.
Right.
So, officers who are watching, please do read up on STEM a little bit. It would not be ideal for me to explain the entire thing at this point in time, but please do read up about this.
So that means you did your due diligence definitely. It's getting OPT for 3 years gives you that much more time to settle down properly, get a job, try for H1B visa, etc., etc. So we don't have a legacy of people joining before you in the same university. But otherwise, what is the placement ratio?
Especially to a person like me, who is apart from being part of Value Talks. I think I spend most of my week trying to reach out to people for the job search part. So the there is a dilemma which is connected to the economy and how there is fluidity of things in the corporate world at this point in time. One has heard and read a lot about it. In spite of that, whatever my feedback is until now is that nobody is without a job. And when Indian officers end up coming to the US, they usually do their homework and get to good universities. And there is always a network which is aligned to all of these universities. So that is something that one utilizes, and eventually one does get into good roles. So if you're asking ratio wise, sir, number of officers landing here and number of officers getting a job, I would say it is close to 100%. It cannot be that one does not get a job. What happens is one may have to, what at least we have been made to understand, is that one may have to compromise depending on the situation in terms of what is the eventual package that one ends up getting. Those type of compromises may have to be made to start with, but I think we all can get there. It is a kind of struggle to start with. My best friends have told me to be prepared for 3 years of struggle, not just 1 year of studying at business school.
Right. So that is, that kind of struggle is there even in India. Even had you done your MBA from a premier institute in India also, you may encounter sometimes. So I have met people who have done, after 20 years, they did ISP and, they had to struggle for some time. And even IIM, for some times, they did struggle. And then subsequently, everything was tiki-tiki-boo. So it's fine. But the point is the brand, which is brand Suhel, is now established. You have something on your resume which is very good. It may take some time, but which I'm sure it will not. And but it's better to be prepared, of course.
Yes, sir. One has to be aware of what are the chances, what are the possibilities, and one does plan for a worst case scenario. One has to think through this process, and one has to plan for the worst case scenario.
Absolutely, I agree. That's what I was about to say. That you don't plan for the best case scenario, you plan for the worst case scenario, and you should be prepared. So that is the kind of psyche you should have. That things may not turn out to be very good in the beginning, but eventually they will definitely work out. So just let us know what MBA you are doing and what is. Uh, I am sure that you don't know how Indian MBAs are done, but still, what is that one thing which you are liking very much?
So the program that I'm in is the Sloan Fellows MBA.
Okay.
This is the 1 year MBA for mid-career professionals. And apart from this program, there are many other programs that are run at the Sloan School of Management, which is part of MIT, and which include the 2-year program, the executive MBA. There is a logistics course, there's a supply chain course. So if one visits the website of Sloan, one will be able to see all of these courses or programs rather. So my program particularly is 1-year program, and there are a lot of times when people end up asking me, "What is your specialization?" The way it is in India, or finance, or operations, or HR. This is a program which has certain number of core courses. The core courses include operations, strategy, finance, and of course, there are a lot of leadership courses, and one does learn a lot from the leadership courses because we are exposed to only a certain type of leadership, and there is a different module of leadership which is required probably when we move outside. So these are the primary composites of the program. Apart from that, there are Pan, MIT, and Harvard, more than 500 subjects available. I can pick and choose whatever subjects I want. I have a unit limit. To each of the subject, there is a unit attached, 3 unit, 6 unit, 9 unit, 12 unit. I can do a maximum of 200 odd units, and I can choose subjects from all over MIT, not just the Sloan School of Management. I can cross-register with Harvard. There's so many of us who have done classes and taken electives in Harvard. So
Okay.
it is what one makes out of it. It is not one particular set of subjects that everyone follows. That is not the case. You pick and choose your subjects.
I mean, that really sounds very, very interesting. And Ajay, just tell me, how does it feel? I mean, to be in Sloan. When you are when you're sipping your tea or coffee in the morning, or I don't know whether you enjoy a drink or not when you are having a drink, and sometimes reflecting back, how does it feel to be in Sloan?
So to start with, whatever drinking used to happen, I gave that up once I reached Sloan.
Good.
The business school, one has done various type of courses which we colloquially call mental commandos back at home. So this is another form of that, and yeah, they don't make it easy for you at all. They don't make it easy for you. But the question of yours, how do I feel about being at Sloan? This is uh, everyone who I interact with who is an ex-Sloanee who has done this course talks about this being the best year of their lives. For me, I have moved out from the army. The kind of exposure that is over here, the people that you meet, the community that is there, and there's so much to absorb. There's so much to learn. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal experience. And just the community, the people that you share classroom space with, it's out of the world. They are successful entrepreneurs, the industry leaders, people who are doing really well in their lives. They are not people who are just looking for a career change or pivot transitioning. People are here to evolve. So when you're in that environment, the motivation, the inspiration is amazing. It's a fantastic experience. I don't really know how best to express it in words, but it's a brilliant learning experience. It's a brilliant exposure.
So I asked this question for a reason, so that everybody else who's listening to this, because I was very sure of your answer, and so that everyone can soak in, the kind of energy. So, and I really wish that I could be there, and maybe I will do some very short capsule there at least, just to
You must.
feel the energy of it. So, but that's very, very wonderful,
Yeah,
Suhel. But
I just like to add.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah.
sorry for
No,
cutting in.
please go.
There are two parts to being in a business school, I have realized. One is the academic experience, wherein you do your learnings and studies. Again, Sloan is second to none in as far as the academic exposure is concerned. There are other colleges also. One should consider them too. Second, which is very important, is the community experience. How they how well the set of people that you end up being with, they consider them to be you to be their own, and how well you connect with the set of people that you end up being with. That is actually a fantastic experience. Now I'm connected to earlier my community was largely only military officers, and it was a very thick and a very strong community. It still is. But now that I'm connected to a community which is from world over, that gives me a different strength altogether. And it's a very empowering experience. So it's not just the academic experience, it's also the community experience.
And what about the peer-to-peer learning? I mean, academic experience is okay, and you're part of a very, very elite community. That is also okay. But then there must be people from different backgrounds, different domains who may be this thing. How is that peer-to-peer learning?
So that's again a fantastic question, sir. Most of what happens eventually is peer learning. Whatever has been my experience through the last couple of semesters, the professors would give us the basics, give us frameworks, and that would be in a class of 1.5 hours. But and there would be discussions. But before that, everything happens in your study groups. Everything happens as the peers sit together, and for various subjects, we'll have various study groups. So everyone's views coming through, everyone's experience coming through. So what I end up learning is not just from the textbooks. Anyways, the textbooks are all case study based. So there's no just paragraph learning kind of a thing that is going on over here. Case studies are discussed in the class. But to get to those, one has to go through the experience and knowledge of the peers. That itself is a huge learning. Because I was not exposed to this environment, because I was not exposed to the corporate world, I get to sit down with corporate leaders and understand how they would approach a problem. And that is how my problem solving skills for the corporate world get enhanced. So that really helps.
And is it a very competitive environment? Competitive, when I say competitive, what I mean is it a very marks oriented environment? Like in India, we are always worried about AI, AXI, instructor grading, 90%, 95%, all those things. Is it also the same, or how is it? How is it different?
So when you're at Sloan, you are amongst the best. It's that is what is our understanding, and we are expected to perform as the best. And whereas the competitive aspect of somebody getting more marks than another person or something of that sort, that I have not experienced at all. We are a set of very mature and very extremely learned individuals, but this thing gets ingrained in us that once you're here and you've been considered to be the best, you might as well perform to your best.
Great. So that means then you are motivated from inside only to do well, because you are in the best of the best lot. The
Right.
company, your peer group is that way.
Yes.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah. You gotta work, never tell, keep your head down, find